Come on in to Margaret McSweeney's Kitchen for Kitchen Chat, where every week you'll meet chefs, cookbook authors, foodies, gourmets, and just plain people who love to eat. And along with laughter, chat, recipes, and stories about food, you'll sometimes also hear words of inspiration, love, and hope. As Margaret always says, Kitchen Chat is food for the senses and food for the soul. So grab a cup of coffee, put your feet up on a comfy chair, and get ready to spend a little time with Margaret and her friends.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Kitchen Chat. This is your host, Margaret McSweeney, and I am just so delighted you're joining me in my kitchen today, and I cannot wait for you to meet our very, very special guest, Chef Robert Gilbert. He is the Executive Chef for Special Events and Catering Operations at Walt Disney World Resort. And, get your pens and paper out. This is going to be so much fun. As we record this, of course, the holidays, Christmas, New Year's are just around the corner. And you can bring a little bit of that Disney magic back to your house with some wonderful, wonderful tips and ideas from the maestro in the kitchen, Chef Robert. Welcome to Kitchen Chat, Chef Robert. So glad you're here.
Well, thank you, Margaret, and hello, everyone. I cannot tell you how excited I am to be here with you today.
Oh, well, this is so special, and thank you for taking the time, especially in the middle of your very busy season with the holidays at Disney. My goodness, I'm seeing so many different articles and pictures. I saw a 7-foot-tall, 400-pound chocolate nutcracker in one of the Disney resorts, and I've been hearing about this gingerbread house. Are you part of those festivities, Chef Robert?
Yes, I am. I got to tell you that we've got a total of 8 gingerbread displays scattered throughout the Walt Disney World Resort this year. And the biggest and the best has got to be from our flagship hotel, Disney's Grand Floridian Resort and Spa. It's actually a full gingerbread house that's built inside the lobby, and it's celebrating its 15th year with us this year. It's actually 16 feet tall, and Chef Eric Herbacek and the team has structured this house now for 15 years, and it keeps growing. It keeps getting bigger and better. It's actually got 1,050 pounds of honey, 700 pounds of chocolate, 600 pounds of powdered sugar, 800 pounds of flour, 140 pints of egg whites, 200 pounds of apricot glaze, and over 10,000 pieces of gingerbread are used to construct this thing. And it is absolutely amazing when you walk into the lobby at Disney's Grand Floridian Resort and Spa.
I am just speechless because I look at my pathetic attempts each year to construct my own little gingerbread house from the box you get at Walmart or wherever, and it always collapses. It always collapses. So how in the world, I'm just curious, and also what advice can you give for those of us at home wanting to do gingerbread houses and whatnot? How in the world is a 16-foot tall gingerbread house constructed? Do you bring it in pieces? Do you bake everything off-site and then bring it in with wheelbarrows or a crane? How is this constructed?
Well, it actually took over 400 hours to put this structure together. And like I say, every year it gets a lot more and more intense, so to speak. And it also took over 160 hours on just decorating the house. Once the house was structured, then you've got to go in and decorate it with the shingles and all the icing and the candy that's used to go into it. Here at Magic, it's just having fun and throwing down and having a good time with your friends. And when we approach any project, let alone the gingerbread project, it's all about making that extra magic for our guests. When you think about Disney, it's not just a theme park or a resort or a movie. It's a feeling. In everything we do, we try to put that extra feeling into it so our guests can experience a time of their lives.
And you put such great goodness, taste into it as well. I mean, it's a magical taste. And what a lot of people, a lot of listeners might not realize is just the gamut from gourmet or to go food that you have there on premise. And then with these special events as well, with the signature dreams, I can't wait to talk about that as well. But back to the statistics, I read somewhere that you oversee 35 chefs and 200 full-time culinary cast members who cater more than 35,000 events a year.
That's a true statement. You know, here at the Walt Disney World Resort, we have over 700,000 square feet of bookable space, and that could be for a corporate event, that could be for a birthday, that could be for a wedding, a bar mitzvah, just a family reunion or get together. And there's 6 major catering teams here on property. There's one at the Disney's Boardwalk Resort and Villas, Disney's Grand Floridian Resort and Spa, Disney's Contemporary Resort, Disney's Yacht Beach Club Resort, Disney's Coronado Springs Resort, and then this other thing that lives inside of Epcot that we call Park Event Operations that facilitates all the events outside of the community other than those 5 resorts that I mentioned. And the team and the synergy and the collaboration that we have amongst those 6 teams is just astronomical, the work that we get done. And 30,000 events is huge when you think about it. When you try to get your hands wrapped around that, you've got to have a great team for it to be successful, and a lot of trust. And you know, we're like a family down here.
Uh-huh.
We have a ball doing what we do.
That is great. And I also read somewhere that at one of these events, you can have as many as like 8,000 guests just at one event. So I cannot imagine the culinary challenges. I panic over Thanksgiving and Christmas of how I'm going to prepare anywhere for 6 people or 20 people if the cousins come over. How in the world can you prepare a menu for 8,000 people? That is a huge choreography.
So I got to tell you, a few weeks ago, we had one of our busiest weeks that we've had in a while. And in the same week, we had the Walt Disney Company management meeting here, which was 300 of our top executives that were here Monday through Thursday. In the same week, we had the First Lady here that came at Disney's Boardwalk Resort. And then the same night, we had our Walt Disney World Resort Service Celebration, and that's for our special cast members that are celebrating a milestone with us. And that event was for 8,000 guests. And literally all 6 of the chef teams came together as one unit to pull all this off. And that doesn't even include all the other retail business that we had going on in the resort at the same time. And it's a lot about timing, and it's a lot about planning, and it's a lot about trust and coming together as one unit to pull these flawless events off to make sure that we continue to be the best at what we do.
Yes, and I love your quote saying, in catering, it's like driving an SUV through a jungle. Planning is huge for us.
That is so true. You know, it's never the same thing 2 days in a row in the special events and catering operations world. That's for sure.
So for those listeners at home, I mean, what tips can you share with us from this huge grand scale perspective that would be helpful for, you know, those of us planning a much smaller scale, but, you know, important to us nonetheless at home? What would be some great tips you could share?
Well, I got to tell you, the holidays are all about family and spending as much time with the family as possible. And when it comes to preparing the meals, you do want them to be great, right? You want them to look good, you want them to taste good, you want them to smell good, and that obviously takes time to accomplish that. But in the same token, you want to be with your family and friends as well. You don't want to be stuck in a hot kitchen the whole time. So the biggest thing that it comes down to is planning and preparation. How much prep work can you get done so when the family arrives, you're just throwing stuff in to reheat it or cook it. You're not actually chopping the vegetables like you could do the day before, making any sauces or gravies the day before. Anything that you can get done where it won't affect the quality of the product or the integrity of the product, get as much done ahead of time as possible. And while you're thinking about that too, make some fun appetizer or hors d'oeuvre type items so when you are away from your guests, they've got something to snack on. And that could also be a really fun holiday cocktail, either alcoholic or non-alcoholic. Just make it as fun and as flavorful and interactive as you can, because there are times you're going to have to be in the kitchen, and while you're gone, you don't want that sense of void while you aren't there. As much as you can get done ahead of time, that's probably my biggest thing is plan it out and accomplish what you can.
That is so wise. And on the appetizer side of things, what is a fun appetizer that you prepare at home?
Well, I got to tell you, definitely this time of year, I think of sweet potatoes, or I think of butternut squash, or I think of cranberries. I love to do, just get some really nice beef tenderloin or even a pork tenderloin from your local butcher, and grill it off, and then chill it down, and then make like a bruschetta or like a crostini type. Get some baguette or something and toast it off, and then brush that with some aioli or something, and then put the beef tenderloin over top of it. And then you can make like a great cranberry relish or something like that to go over top of it, put it on a platter, and you can serve it cold or room temperature. It doesn't have to be hot. So that's one thing that you could put on your counter or on a coffee table or something and walk away for a few minutes, and your guests will have something to nibble on while you're not around.
And that's a great idea. And I have to share with the listeners, and the post is actually on my kitchenchat.info blog right now. I call it Blog from a Bog. I was recently this year at the such fabulous, and we'll talk about this later, the International Food and Wine Festival at Epcot. And it was so much fun to see the ocean spray, people there actually in a cranberry bog and providing some great cooking tips along the way, too. So I love the fact with incorporating cranberries, and it's very festive as part of your appetizers.
Absolutely. The cranberry bog is a blast. If you've not seen it or experienced it, you all need to come down here and witness it for yourself.
For sure. And it is just so much fun. That whole International Food and Wine Festival, I mean, congratulations on such amazing events. And listeners, if you ever get the opportunity, I highly recommend it. It's typically, is it every October? Is that right, Chef Robert?
It is. It's actually a 46-day festival, and this past year it started on September 27th and ran through November 11th, 2013, obviously. We were open Sunday through Thursday from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., and then Friday and Saturday we were open from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. And I got to tell you, through the festival this year, around the promenade or World Showcase, as we call it, with the 11 countries, we served almost 2 million small plates of food.
Wow.
And it's a record-breaking year. Every year we continue to go up. Our biggest seller was the number one Canada's beef tenderloin, which draws inspiration from the hors d'oeuvre that I just spoke about.
Yeah.
And those, we served almost 90,000 of those through those 46 days.
Amazing. I have to confess, so my favorite place was the dessert, the patisserie in France. So I spent most of my time there.
You get a lot of that.
Yes, it was great. But it's so much fun. You can literally eat your way across the world with these little sample plates and very authentic. And the experience is just wonderful. Just really sampling of cultures and sampling of life, which seemed to be Walt Disney's just a great outreach and vision that he had in sharing cultures and bringing innovations and experiences together in one place. So it's really neat to see how the legacy continues.
Oh, absolutely. We had 21 stations around our marketplace this year, and we actually brought Scotland in for the first year. And speaking of authenticity, we actually brought in vegetarian haggis that was produced in Scotland because we wanted it to be as authentic as possible. And obviously we're working with the Scottish government to make sure that we're a direct reflection of them as they are for us throughout the festival. And we want to make sure that we continue to put our best foot forward. So authenticity, very, very important to us.
Yes, and you said something I'm not familiar with. What is this Scottish dish then? Haggis?
Haggis is traditionally a Christmas dish where it's the stomach lining of a carcass that is filled with it's usually a ground meat and onions and celery and vegetables, and it's traditionally served during the holiday season. This year, because it's so popular in Scotland, we wanted to make sure that it was recognized during Epcot's Food and Wine Festival.
Oh, that's it. And you also offer these incredible chef demos and wine tastings, which I have to admit it was so much fun. Chef Jose, I believe it was Javier, was creating this empanada dish and actually demonstrated how to prepare cactus. And I'd never tried cactus before.
Yeah, Javier does a fantastic job. And the great thing about this festival is that we not only include our renowned Disney chefs, but we also include celebrity chefs as well. And some of my favorites this past year were Robert Irvine, Art Smith, Kat Cora, Andrew Zimmerman was there, Eric Lanyard was there as from the pastry chefs, and we absolutely had a ball together while they were all down. And we would focus on one a week, and they would be included in our festival demo centers, and they were also included in our Party of the Senses, which is the Saturday night event where we come around and we just play with food all night long, and it taps out to about 1,200 guests every Saturday night. But the entertainment, the atmosphere, and the food and beverage, along with the service, are just second to none. Our guests walk away with an experience that they soon won't forget.
Oh, and I love your description of that. We just go in the kitchen and play with food.
I got the greatest job in the world. Growing up, I used to get in trouble for playing with my food, and now I get paid to do it every day. So there you go.
That is fun. And another thing, Chef Robert, I am just so intrigued by, and that is the whole focus on sustainability and innovation in terms of food growing techniques. And I recently read an article, it was from November of 2012, written by Joan Kober, who's a master gardener, and it was in Penn State publication, where she talked about the different types of techniques that are being used at Disney for produce being grown for the Epcot restaurants, and 80 different food crops were being grown in the air, sand, spirals, cool containers, and even above pipes.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's inside of the Land Pavilion, which is one of our pavilions inside of Epcot, where we actually have the Food and Wine Festival. And the Land is a 24-hectare or 2.5 million square foot facility that's dedicated to just the human interaction with the land. And what you're referring to is our research facility, or behind-the-scenes tour that we actually host throughout the day. And it's a demonstration production area, and it's dedicated to the experimental horticulture techniques in hydroponics, irrigation methods, along with integrated pest management. And this place is so amazing. They absolutely grow cucumbers in the shape of Mickey Mouse on a regular basis. And
wow.
The great thing is, Walt built us on a green philosophy. We like to say around here that we were cool by being green before it was cool to be green,
Yeah.
And it does not get any more local or sustainable than growing these products in our very own backyard. And all the products that are grown throughout this facility are used here on property in our restaurants. And, every one of them inside of Epcot get something. Our Park Event Operations teams uses it. And then the WAVE, the American Flavors at Disney's Contemporary Resort, is really big into sustainability and using the lay of the land to use a lot of their products as well. And the quality is just amazing.
And the production is amazing. I read somewhere that the largest single tomato plant ever grown at Epcot yielded 32,000 tomatoes and was entered into the Guinness Book of World Records as the tomato plant that yielded the most tomatoes in 1 year.
It's amazing on how big this place is, along with the big things that it continues to grow on a regular basis. That's for sure.
Yes, with some interesting techniques with the hydroponic and spiral gardening. It's just fascinating, and kudos to Disney World and your efforts, and really focusing on sustainability, and especially really bringing to the forefront a lot of techniques for as we know, soil can become a rare resource around the world, and just learning to grow food supply in a creative way, in an innovative way, in a sustainable way.
As a chef, one of the things that keep us up at night is our future, right? The sustainability and who's coming after us, including not only professional chefs but farmers, and who's going to work the land, and who's going to take over for these 4 or 5 generation family farms that are throughout our country right now. And kudos to Disney. Yeah, I am a cast member, but I'm also a huge fan of what our company and what our brand continues to do by pushing the envelope on everything from technology. We've been recognized by the National Restaurant Association for technology in our food and beverage outlets, along with the horticulture and the sustainable standpoint that we continue to business model our facilities after. And it's just amazing the things that we can accomplish when we all work together. 65,000 of my closest friends work here on a regular basis, and if there's something I need built, or borrowed, and we've even been known to tunnel under things, we can get it done when we all work together as one team, that's for sure.
And that is a great lesson to all of us with teamwork and creativity. And speaking of creativity and innovation as well, I heard someplace that you're looking at canning and pickling. Can you share with us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I'm sure you know Ball canning jars.
Yes.
Mason jars.
Mm-hmm.
So they're celebrating their 100-year anniversary this year. And, we as a special events and catering operations team, we recognize that.
Yes.
So what we did is we've actually built a whole program around celebrating canning and pickling. And, we want to make sure that we represent that brand the best that we can, along with representing our brand at the same time. So, right now, team building is huge in the meetings arena, so to speak.
Yes.
We have and association groups coming down here all the time, looking for that next team builder to bring that team synergy throughout their organization. So what we've done is we obviously have purchased a lot of these jars. We've gone to the land and we said, hey, we're doing this program with these guests. And then what we do is we break up the groups into teams, and we teach them about canning and pickling, and they're the ones that are doing the work. We're just telling them how to do it. And then even for those special groups, we'll take them over to the land, and we'll let them know what we're looking for. And we obviously bring in produce from the outside, and we bring in local farmers. Zellwood corn, I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's one of the sweetest corns on the bricks scale that there are, and we're very close to this family farm. And we bring in these experts, these resident experts, to talk to the guests. And then after they have all the information, we let them loose. We let them go crazy and let them can and pickle, whatever they want. And then we actually will take the cans, you have to have a label for your jar, and we have them design and create that and put the group's name on it and, label what's actually inside the jar. And, whoever comes up with the best recipe or the best flavor profile, obviously we do a first, second, third, and we have ribbons for them like they would be at the, the Tri-County Fair type scenario with 4-H. And through this whole process, they're getting jazzed. They're working together, but at the same time they're learning. They're having fun learning about canning, pickling, and produce and sustainability, and what does it mean to be local, and all those types of things. And then once the program is over, they have a souvenir to take home with them, because we obviously give them the products that they have just pickled or canned. And man, it's so much fun. It really is. In the beginning, we knew we wanted to do something to recognize Ball and the things that they have done for our industry, throughout the years. But we never realized that it was going to be this much fun and get caught on by so many groups that are actually looking for that difference to make to make that difference in their group.
And that does sound like so much fun. And I have never tried to can or pickle anything in my life. I wouldn't know where to start. So can you give us a quick little 411 of how you do canning or pickling with these ball jars?
Sure. So canning and pickling are two different scenarios, right? Canning is where you would take the jar and you would fill it with, whatever you want, cucumbers to make pickles, celery, green beans, and then you would build a vinegar solution, right? And the ratio is usually 2-to-1, 2 parts water to 1 part vinegar, and then you would submerge the product with the pickling spice and garlic and shallots, whatever flavor profile that you're looking for, and then you would lots of salt is in there as well. You would use like kosher salt or a pickling salt, and you would let that sit, and then you would take it out, and what we like to do is after that first brine, basically, is we like to rinse it off, and then we build another pickling solution, and then we'll put it back in the jar and then seal it up. The other, now that's pickling. That's a lot of fun.
And what is it when you say pickling solution? I mean, what is in a pickling solution?
So typically it's the ratio, the 2 parts water to 1 part vinegar, and then whatever you want to add to it. Pickling spice, you got juniper berries, you got peppercorn, salt, pepper flakes, whatever flavor profile you're looking for. Lots of salt is in there as well. For example, if you have 2 cups water to 1 cup of vinegar, you usually have 1 cup of salt as well.
And what does a juniper berry taste like? I've never seen one.
Well, a juniper berry, it's probably a cross between like a clove and a star anise type of experience, somewhere in there. Yeah. And then garlic. I love garlic.
Yes.
It goes in almost everything I do, and I love some type of onion component as well. And there's numerous onions out there. Shallots are a good one. Even the white Spanish onion will work. Pearl onions are great ones to put in because they're little and they look great in there with the garlic cloves. That type of scenario. So that pretty much covers the pickling side.
Yes.
And then there's the canning principle, right? And that's where you're actually submerging a product in hot water. And depends on the acidity of the food. So there's high acid products that you would can, and then there's low acid. So a high acid product would include things like tomatoes, citrus, things that have already a high acid component in them. And then there are things with low acid, and like you can even can meat, think of those types of scenarios. And then depending on the acid level is then you would put your products in the jars and you would seal them, and then you would submerge them in water, either 240 degrees for the low acid foods, or 212, which water boils at 212 degrees for the higher acid. And then you would leave them for a set amount of time, and then you would pull them out and let them come to room temperature, and then they're basically canned. That's a basic canning principle. It's pretty simple. It's been around for forever. Because basically all you're doing with the home canning principle is, figuring out how to prevent food spoilage, and is the key behind canning.
Yes, and it really makes things more sustainable. I love that. Oh, just so many great innovations and everything going on, and you make it so much fun and celebrating Mason and Ball's 100th year. That's so much fun. And in addition to all of that, you are in charge of what, oh my goodness, I can only imagine what it entails. Disney's Signature Dreams. Can you share with the listeners kind of what that is and some of the most amazing experiences you've created for the Signature Dreams?
So Disney's Signature Dreams are events that are totally customized around you, your family, or your group. And what will happen is our guest or our client will come and meet with us in blue sky with us. This is what we want to do. We want to build an ice skating rink in one of your ballrooms, and we want so-called professional skater to come out in the middle of the event and skate around the ballroom. And then at the same time, as soon as they're done skating, I want Duff to come rolling in our cake by my wife's 50th birthday or whatever the case is. When you think about Disney, we are an entertainment company, and we're very, very good at entertaining people. And I go back to the resources that I spoke about earlier, and we entangle them, or we tie them into every event that we do. But these Disney signature dreams are basically like a typical event on steroids. And we pull in production managers and show directors and creative directors to come up with this crazy stuff, and they work with the chefs and our front of the house managers on what is possible and what is not possible. Well, one of the ones that really stand out to me is we did a wedding in front of Cinderella's castle a few years back, and that was probably one of the coolest events that I've ever been a part of in my career. And it was just so touching to see this family, be a part of that. It's what dreams are, right? You think about, wow, where do I want my daughter to get married? Well, in front of Cinderella's castle, of course. And to pull that off and to be a part of that event, that's an experience that I will never forget. That's for sure. And then back to building, the ice skating rink inside of Disney's Contemporary Resort Ballroom. We just did that a few months ago, and we literally transformed a 30,000 square feet ballroom into a winter wonderland in July. And it was, we had snow piped in, and we literally had an ice skating rink in there, and we did have Duff rolling in the cake. And what a great guy, by the way. He's a fantastic pastry chef, and the food it matches all of that. We've got guests walking around with flavored icicles and those types of scenarios, and it's just amazing. We got I guess this is kind of corny, but whatever. But literally, when it comes to our food and beverage, the only thing that limits us is our imaginations, and we play all day long.
Yes, and that can hold true for the listeners in the kitchen. What's holding anyone back? The sky's the limit, only your imagination. So, yeah, I think that is so encouraging. And, I have to share with you, Chef Robert, and the listeners, it was so much fun when I was at Disney World in October. I also, of course, was at Epcot for the wonderful Food and Wine Festival, but I always have to go to the Magic Kingdom. There's always a kid in each of us. And there, lo and behold, I walked up to Cinderella's castle, and someone was proposing to a bride-to-be. It was so cute. So...
Yeah.
Definitely fun. Yeah, so this is quite a challenge. I can only imagine logistically with the culinary perspective of these Disney signature dreams and making these dreams come true. What, with the wedding at Cinderella's castle, what stood out to you most of all about that experience from a culinary perspective?
It all comes down to the planning phase, that we spoke about before. It's loading in. You can't load into the park when it's open. You got to load in, before park hours are actually open. So you have to load in a little bit early. You've got to make sure that you have enough power to keep the product in refrigerated units, obviously backstage somewhere hidden, and then being able to cook it to order. Basically, we like to cook on our special events catering operations teams when you think about catering, you think, cooking food and putting it in a hot box, and when they get here, they get here. Well, that's not how we approach it. We approach it that we want to cook that food like they do in a restaurant. There's no reason why you can't have restaurant quality food coming out of a catered event. And we want to cook that food as close to service as possible, just like they do in a restaurant. And it all comes down to logistics and planning and making sure that you have the facilities and the equipment, not only and the talent to pull or execute an event like that off and make it seem seamless and not rushed or like it doesn't belong there. You want everything to feel like it's part of the show, and it does belong, and it makes sense and as fluid as possible. So it comes down to planning. Again, I always go back to make sure you're planning out and you're doing as much ahead of time as possible, where it does not It does not harm the integrity of the product.
Right. And so you can help make people's dreams come true there at Disney World, either individually for special occasions or for corporate, from birthdays, weddings to corporate events. You have this great Disney signature dream team.
We do, absolutely. We can do events up from two to thousands, and make each and every guest feel special. We say make magic one guest at a time, right? And that just special events and catering. That doesn't include our other food and beverage locations. Here at the Walt Disney World Resort, that we've got over 480 food and beverage outlets here. That's just huge.
That is huge, and it's just amazing not only to think that you're feeding the guests, but also the cast members, and from to-go food to gourmet food, such as, we have to include this on our kitchen chat, Monsieur Paul. What an amazing legacy there. Chef Paul, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, Bocuse, who is chef of the century, has world-famous, Michelin-starred restaurants all over the world, especially in Lyon, France. And his son, Jerome, is that correct, is part of the Monsieur Paul there in Epcot.
You're absolutely correct. And, what an honor and a privilege to have those folks here on property. And it is always such a joy when they're around, and we get to actually hang out with them. It's just so much fun.
And right, and it's so cute how they do the chef jacket napkin. How do they fold that napkin to make it look like a chef jacket?
To be honest with you, I really don't know, but I can find out for you.
That would be fun. Because that is so cute. And just excellent, food there for someone who really wants to experience the top of the line. And then even at the resorts as well, the resort hotels. And you were with the Floridian, the Grand Floridian, a few years back, right?
I was. I worked at, in my 21 career here, I have worked at Disney's Port Orleans Resort, both sides. I've worked at Disney's Grand Floridian Resort and Spa. I've worked at Disney's All-Star Sports and All-Star Music. I was all over the Magic Kingdom. I worked at Disney's Yacht and Beach Club Resorts. I've worked at Disney's Contemporary Resorts, and now I've been the executive chef for special events catering operations for 5 years now. And
wow.
When I mentioned the 480 food and beverage outlets before,
yes,
over 100 of those are full service restaurants. We've got close to 300 quick service restaurants and food carts, and we've got almost 90 nightclubs, lounges, and pool bars within our profile of food and beverage locations.
That is just amazing. That truly is amazing. All of the cooking and cleaning, with all the dishes, and the choreography from a culinary perspective. That, yes, my Mickey Mouse chef hat ears off to you and all of the the chefs there at Disney World. And Chef Robert, if you could maybe back to kind of the signature dreams, and how could someone, one of the Kitchen Chat listeners, kind of recreate, you had talked about how you also do signature dreams, even if it's just for two people at a table. Is there some special something that you can share with us that we can do here at home if it's just for two people, or just a small family? What can make that extra special? Some of that Disney magic here at home.
Absolutely. One of the things that we try to do, when I think back to my childhood and I think about the holidays and Thanksgiving and those types of scenarios, I don't remember the presents or the gifts. I remember walking into my grandparents' homes and the smell of the food. And then I remember tasting the food. And those are things that have lived with me for years now. And when I talk to guests about our food and beverage opportunities with them, I go back to, you want to hit as many senses as you can, because years down the road, your guests aren't going to remember specific conversations or once again, the gifts or what you were wearing, they're going to remember the food and what the experience that you provided them. So the more senses that you can hit with them, the better off that you're going to be. And I'm not saying go get scent machines and put them in your house, but lighting a candle or here or there definitely won't hurt. But, when you walk into someplace and they're baking chocolate chip cookies, you remember that, and it just drives you to want to have a warm chocolate chip cookie and a big glass of milk. So those are the experiences that I try to create for our guests. And, I've even pulled little ovens into rooms while meetings are going on, and, they'll break in 15 or 20 minutes. And I'll start baking chocolate chip cookies, and they know when it's time to break that, oh, my goodness, we're going to have fresh chocolate chip cookies when we break, So as many items that you can create those sensory experiences, I think the more successful and the more fun that you're going to have. Food, everyone in the world has to eat, and everyone has to join around the table. And the more experiential that you make it, the more fun that you make it, the more relaxed that you make it, the more fun that everyone's going to have, and just relax and have a good time with it.
That is great advice. So we can all bring a little bit of Disney magic to our homes this holiday season. Well, I have to get to some of these questions that listeners sent in, especially to 9-year-old Macy. She is so excited to ask you, Chef, a couple of questions she has. She says, do you have names for your dishes? If so, how do you come up with those names?
So I have a 7-year-old daughter named Madeline, and I have a 4-year-old son named Mason. And we have one dessert that we do, and it's Madeline's peanut butter and jelly flambé sundae. And Madeline is an aspiring chef. She's got her little chef coat and her little hat and her little apron at home. And the first thing she ever learned how to make was peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, of course, without the crust. But she loved ice cream. And then she loved grilled cheese sandwiches. And she asked me one day, she said, Daddy, how do we put all this together and make it, fun and make it good? So what we did was we started making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And I'm assuming if you don't have one, but we have the lean, mean, fat-reducing grilling machine at home.
Yeah.
Turn it like a panini press type of experience, or you can just use a griddle or a pan like you would a grilled cheese. And we griddled the sandwich, and then we would cut it into fours, and we made a tower out of it. And then on top of it, we made fresh homemade vanilla bean ice cream.
Yeah.
And then we put that on top of it, and then we made a chocolate ganache sauce to go over top of that, and then she loves sprinkles, so we had sprinkles on there. And that's one of my favorite desserts to put on any menu, because obviously it's that experience that I shared with my daughter. So that's once, yeah. So that's one dessert how we came up with the name. We've got a chef, Chef Leonard Thompson is the chef de cuisine over at Park Event Operations, and he comes from an Italian background, and he makes this excellent wedding soup. So we call it Leonardo's Italian wedding soup, and that's on our menus, and that's in honor of Chef Leonard. And little touch points on where we can incorporate the chefs and give them a credit for the great job that we do, without embarrassing them or bringing attention to them. Everyone knows it's Chef Leonard, but we call it Leonardo's.
Oh, that is great. And Macy also asked, do you have a princess dish?
We have thousands of princess dishes. There's when you were referring to me back in the resorts before, I was in special events and catering operations. I worked, probably one of the funnest places I've ever worked was the Crystal Palace inside of the Magic Kingdom. I was one of the chefs there for a while. And we have Winnie the Pooh and Tigger and Eeyore as our character buffet. And I would walk that dining room numerous times throughout my shift. And any time that a child would come up to me and say, wow, this is the best macaroni and cheese I've ever had. This is better than my mom's. That would just make my day, right?
Aww.
And as I was walking the dining room, I had an autograph book. And you know how the children go and get the characters' autographs. Well, I would ask for the children's autograph. So
Oh,
every dish that we would prepare, I felt like it was for our little princesses and our princes
oh.
that were dining with us that evening.
Oh, that is so cute. Oh, and thank you, Macy, for asking these questions to Chef Robert. That
Great,
is.
great, great questions, Macy. Those were awesome.
And then Lynn, another listener, asked, "What exactly?" And I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing this, Chef Robert. What exactly is omakase? She saw this at the California Grill and Contemporary Resort.
So omakase is the sixth taste, right? It's an Asian culture where it's they going back to the experience that I was referring to
Oh.
earlier, and in Asian cultures, that omakase is that sixth taste that takes it above and beyond. Where omakase is, you're putting your faith in the chef's hands, like they do it in a lot of sushi restaurants, where you'll belly up to the sushi bar, so to speak, and you'll say omakase, and what that means is that I'm putting my sixth taste in the chef's hands. Let the chef create whatever they feel is the best quality product that's in season, that they want to showcase themselves to me, and it's part of the chef's personality. And let's take this experience to a whole nother level. So what we've done is we've included the omakase experience into our events here at Disney's Contemporary Resort. Contemporary, each of our convention hotels has a personality. The Disney's Grand Floridian Resort is all about Grand Victorian. Obviously, Disney's Yacht and Beach Club is all about the New England feel. But really, what is Disney's Contemporary Resort, and what is contemporary? So we've involved the omakase concept into our events here, just to take it to that next level, to say, what we do follow the trends, but we also like to think that we set some of our own trends as well.
And that is such a great word and terminology for life application, the omakase. I love this.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great question. I love that.
Oh, this is wonderful. And I guess my question to you is, what is next? You and Disney continue to do all these amazing things in and outside of the kitchen. I mean, what do you see as what's next?
Well, when we talk about that all the time, we're a very collaborative organization. Within our ranks, there's 12 senior chefs that are part of the Walt Disney World Resort catering operations teams, and we meet regularly, and we talk about what's important to us, and where do we want to go as one unit and not 6 units. And, obviously we focus on succession planning and talent management. Who are the chefs of tomorrow? And we want to make sure that we develop them and make sure that they're set up for success. We talk about training. We're not only training our chefs, but also our front-of-the-house partners, our sales team, and our services partners, because they're a direct reflection of us as we are of them. And if they don't know the product that we're serving and they're out selling it, that's a huge opportunity for us.
Right.
So, and then obviously equipment, what's here today is gone tomorrow. When you think about, food and beverage in general, it's not like a lot of other items in our lives that are here today and gone tomorrow. Food's very trendy. Just like clothes and music and cars, and you've got to make sure that you stay in front of those trends. So the 12 of us get together on a regular basis, and we think about that strategically, and we make sure that we try. We're not perfect, but we don't keep making the same mistake over and over. But we want to be in the right place at the right time. So that's very important to us.
Yeah, and do you envision, or is there already in place, like a Disney Culinary Institute?
Well, Disneyland Resort has an apprenticeship program that is very successful, and we had one here for a long time, and now we do it's called the Culinary Passport to Excellence. here at the Walt Disney World Resort. It's a little bit different than Disneyland. And we actually take our teams through everything from, nice skills. What is a brunoise cut? What's a julienne cut? Keep your fingers back so you don't, knife safety. Safety is our number one key basic. All the way through soups and sauces and what is a roux and, how do you make a proper slurry and roasting meats, what temperature do you roast the whole chicken to? And, that training process is an integral part of our future success. But it also comes on the hands-on day-to-day operation as well. Back to the close to 500 food and beverage outlets, along with what we do in catering, we're getting our folks the school of hard knocks, right? We're educating them every single day. And, yeah, there are a lot of tasks in a kitchen that are mundane or the same, but you know what? When you do move on to the next task, you're an expert at, chopping or slicing or whatever the case may be.
Oh, exactly. Well, this is just so exciting. Chef Robert, thank you for sharing the magic of Disney's kitchen with the listeners of Kitchen Chat today. I think we've all learned so much. This is just great, and some great tips and just a greater appreciation of the sustainable growing techniques that you're using at Disney and all of the fabulous Disney dining destinations and the signature dreams and all the wonderful culinary discoveries that Disney is offering. Thank you so much for being on Kitchen Chat.
Well, thank you, Margaret. I've had an absolute ball, and I really appreciate you having the team and I on today.
Oh, thank you so much. And listeners, during this very busy holiday season, at least we're not preparing 16-foot-tall gingerbread houses, but in those moments of the busy times, please remember just to take a moment and savor the day.
Thank you for joining us today. If you're interested in Margaret's books, A Mother's Heart Knows, Pearl Girls, Encountering Grit, Experiencing Grace, and Go Back and Be Happy, please just click on the covers on the webtalkradio.net page in front of you. Margaret would love to connect with you and hear from you, so join her on Twitter, Facebook, her blog, or click on this website to leave a note and share a recipe. Thank you again, and we'll see you here again for a new show next week.